If you searched anywhere for the greatest works of art ever painted, you would almost certainly come across this image. Few paintings in the history of art are as rich in detail as this one, yet at the same time, few feel so strange. In the scene, we see a woman dressed in pink, swinging on a swing tied to a tree. Behind her, nearly concealed in the shadows, a man pulls on the ropes, sending her higher and higher with each push. On the other side, another man hides among the bushes, discreetly looking under her dress. With each movement of the swing, this man manages to see more, and it is from this moment that the work begins to take on a completely different meaning from what we first imagined. The painting is titled The Swing and was created by Jean-Honoré Fragonard in 1767. When we look at the work, everything in it feels excessive and full of life. The trees are thick and dominate almost the entire image. The foliage grows abundantly, and the lattice in the background seems to try, without much success, to impose order in the midst of so much nature. The scene transports us to the green gardens of the French countryside, a space where the wealthiest people of the time played at dressing up as shepherds and milkmaids, as if they were living a romantic version of rural life. In fact, if you look closely, the woman wears a bergère hat, which is typical of shepherdesses, while an older gentleman, seated on a stone bench behind her, innocently pulls the ropes of the swing without realizing what is happening right before his eyes. On the other side of the composition, we find a second man, who in contrast appears lying among the bushes. The direction of his gaze, along with the expression of surprise on his face, makes it clear what he is seeing. Even the position of his body, with one arm extended and the fingers of his other hand open, reinforces his desire to reach what he is looking at. It is worth noticing what this man is leaning on, as it is a stone pedestal decorated with dancing Maenads, who in mythology are followers of Bacchus, the god of wine, celebration, desire, and fertility. And this detail is far from accidental. Fragonard placed it there deliberately to add another layer of meaning to the scene. Now, the woman is not a passive figure within the scene. She actively participates in the flirtatious game unfolding before us. If you look closely, as she lifts her leg in excitement, one of her shoes flies off into the air. This detail is quite important, since in the social context of the 18th century, such a gesture would have been seen as clearly improper. This helps explain why the scene takes place in a private garden and why there are no other people around. These gardens were spaces where the aristocracy, and especially women, could relax and behave with greater freedom, away from the public gaze. With each push, the woman's dress rises just enough to reveal her legs, and this is no accidental detail either. In fact, the original title of the work is The Happy Accidents of the Swing, which already gives us a clue about the double meaning the artist intended to convey with this painting. Another important point to consider is that although the woman appears to participate naturally in the scene, we must not forget that this is not a real situation, but a fantasy constructed by the painter for the enjoyment of his audience. The painting measures 81 centimeters in height and 65 centimeters in width, and its relatively small size suggests that it was designed to be displayed in private and intimate spaces known as cabinets, where this type of artwork was acceptable. And this is where an interesting idea comes in. By portraying the woman as someone who takes part in the game, we as viewers do not feel uncomfortable looking at the image. By painting her as if she enjoys being watched, the scene stops feeling invasive and instead becomes a shared, even playful moment. The male audience of the time likely identified with the man hidden among the bushes, and it is much easier to do so if the woman seems aware of what is happening and part of the same game. But then the big question arises. Is that complicity truly real within the scene, or is it merely an illusion created by the artist to make everything more acceptable? To answer this, we must take into account the origin of the painting. In 1767, the great Rococo painter Jean-Honoré Fragonard received a commission from a high-ranking gentleman named Baron de Saint-Julien, who asked him to paint his lover seated on a swing, pushed by a bishop. The Baron de Saint-Julien was a true lover of art and also quite fond of jokes and wordplay. At the time, he held an important position as a government representative and was responsible for collecting the taxes paid by the church. During the production of the painting, Fragonard fulfilled the commission as requested. The only clear change is that he replaced the bishop with the figure of a cuckolded husband. Considering his role, his insistence that the man pulling the swing's rope should be a bishop could be interpreted as a parody or a mockery of his peers. If we look more closely, in the background of the garden, next to the smiling husband, we can see a sculpture showing a pair of cherubs or putti riding a dolphin. These water putti traditionally represent love, since dolphins were consecrated to Aphrodite. However, the concerned expressions on their faces suggest that the bonds of marriage are being threatened. Following this same logic, Fragonard painted a barking dog in the lower right corner, with its paws resting on a low brick wall, something that has traditionally represented fidelity. But here it functions as a clever warning, especially because its expression seems rather anxious. But it does not end here. There is still another detail that reveals the illicit nature of this amusement. On the left side, there is a statue of Cupid observing the scene with a finger placed on his lips in a gesture calling for silence. The sculpture is a replica of a well-known work by the contemporary French sculptor Étienne Maurice Falconet. The fact that this sculpture appears in the painting tells us that Cupid, even as the mischievous god of love, recognizes the pleasure found in keeping certain aspects of love secret. It is natural that when we look at the painting, it creates a certain sense of discomfort. It is, after all, a scene in which a woman is being watched from a distance, but we can also approach it from another angle and simply enjoy its visual wit, its humor, its double meanings, and its rich symbolic weight. If we see it from the woman's point of view, she is the protagonist. She stands at the center of the scene, illuminated, commanding all the attention. From this perspective, she is not a distracted victim, but someone who chooses to play the game and acts with her own intentions. She is in the fullness of youth, aware of her attractiveness and of the effect she produces. The artist makes this clear by surrounding her with the full splendor of the Rococo style. The garden is lush, radiant, overflowing with life, as if it reflects her own energy. The colors are rich and vibrant. Light enters from the upper left, tinting the landscape with blues, greens, and emerald tones. In the lower right corner, golden light touches the ground and highlights the tree trunk and its roots, adding even more depth to the scene. Seen this way, the painting is full of vitality. Everything revolves around a confident woman who enjoys the game of seduction and the awareness that she holds the attention of two men at once, one of them trusting and cheerful, the other completely captivated by her. From this perspective, the painting does not have to be read solely as an act of voyeurism. It can also be understood as a celebration of her freedom, of her ability to occupy the center of the scene and to break away from the modest image that society expected from women. In the end, she does not appear passive, but in control, moving with confidence and setting the rhythm of everything happening around her. But ultimately, the interpretation remains open, and each of you must decide what you are truly seeing. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I would love to read your thoughts about this painting in the comments. If you would like to purchase a reproduction of this work and add it to your collection, you can now do so through our website. In the link in the description, you will find our catalog with more than 800 carefully selected artworks, so you can choose your favorites and turn your home into your own personal museum. Worldwide shipping is free, and by purchasing from the store, you help support the creation of videos like this every week. Thank you for your support, and I will see you in the next video.